In 2002, B&M introduced their flying coaster, Air at Alton Towers. Having to stay below the tree line, this is pretty small and mild, but over the next decade, they took this model to new heights, introduced new tricks, and in 2016, they built their flying magnum opus. This is Flying Dinosaur at Universal Studios Japan, a Jurassic Park themed flyer you can see from all around the park. Watching this thing for years and hearing all the reviews, I never really considered getting out to Osaka to ride it. But in July 2025, I arrived. I took on the Dinosaur 2 times, and today I'm going to share my thoughts. This is my review of Flying Dinosaur, the world's greatest flying coaster. Once you enter Universal Japan, you walk down their main street in the Hollywood section, get to the end, and across that lagoon, you can see Flying Dinosaur rising above everything else. You have to get around the lagoon to get into Jurassic Park, and you can go right and pass through Amity Village, but the shorter route is to go left, pass through New York and San Francisco, and that'll drop you off not far from the Flying Dinosaur entrance. You'll see 3 lines, the main entrance on the right, the express lane in the middle, and the single rider on the left. We didn't use Express Pass. That's actually quite expensive at this park, and there are 14 different packages you can buy, so if you're really interested, you can check that out online. But you might want to consider the single rider line. From my experience at the park, the single rider wait time is always set 5 or 10 minutes shorter than the standby line, but that number is always super inflated. I know, it's physically impossible to put a real number on the single rider line. It could be 1 minute, it could be forever, but we got on super quick both times. Once we were done with the lockers, it was no more than 20 minutes. This is also helped by their operations. At some parks, the flying coasters are nightmares when it comes to ops. Tatsu at Magic Mountain has some of the slowest dispatches I've ever seen, and that line takes forever. Flying Dinosaur has 2 stations, 4 trains on the track, and that line is always moving. That's why, even on a busy day, the line never got close to an hour, and by the end of the night, the regular line was barely over 30 minutes. When I was off-ride and filming, it seemed like there was always a train in the lift hill, so they are serious at Universal, and you won't find those classic, slow, thorough Japanese ops here. I don't have any footage of the station, and that's because of their locker policy. As you can imagine, it's Japan. It's an extreme flying coaster. It takes place entirely over footpaths. There's zero chance you're allowed to bring anything on board. I have a lot to say about the locker system, but since you all didn't come here for that, I'll talk about the ride itself and save the locker talk for the end. This train has 8 rows, and I was assigned row 6 and then row 4. I'm normally a back row guy, but on a coaster this intense, I didn't care where they put me. You rise up a 151-foot lift and dive right over the people walking by, 125 feet straight down. By far the best drop I've ever seen on a flying coaster. It then enters one of the craziest sequence of elements ever, and I mean on any coaster. It's so crazy it's hard to believe B&M actually did this. You rise up and into a 0G roll, but then it flips you over onto your back again as you dive to the ground, and you're rising back up into a Raven turn. This is kinda like a bizarre pretzel loop and is crazy intense, but don't rest too much. You dip down, twist up to the left, and here you have the real deal, an actual pretzel loop, this one dipping underground. These 2 elements taken back to back make this one of the most intense coasters in the world. It's hard to keep your eyes open the way it's trying to rip your head off. But when I was in row 4 and wasn't pulling quite as much force, I kept my eyes open during that pretzel loop, and that was a surreal experience. So, Flying Dinosaur starts off with about as big of a bang as you can imagine, but it's not slowing down. No way. This flips you hard back face down, and if there was a small break, it's right here. This little airtime hill heading back to the edge of that lagoon, and you definitely feel all your internal organs suspend mid-air. A weird feeling on a flying coaster. Then you hang a right turn and go right into an inline twist. Go into an intense 360-degree helix. Dip down and end the ride with one more inversion, an inline twist going into the brakes. It's hard to imagine anyone hits the final brakes and thinks, that was just okay. I was absolutely blown away, just by the sheer absurdity and sheer intensity of the ride. Like, is this even a B&M? It seems like Intamin designed this one. I've ridden Tatsu, and that's pretty mild aside from that one famous moment. But aside from the airtime hill, Flying Dinosaur dials it up to 100 the whole ride, and the airtime hill isn't even a bad or dead element. It's still great. So, despite not being the longest ride, it's great from start to finish. A few years ago, I did my B&M Flyers by the Numbers video, and I had to go back after writing it just to see how my experience lined up with the stats. Out of 11 flyers, this is the best paced at 61.2 feet per second. That beat Tatsu by 3 feet per second. Absolutely no shock there. This thing rips, and it even has a ton of speed going into the final brakes, careening into that final twist. It did feel like a bit of a short ride. In terms of ride time, it's right in the middle at 47 seconds, but it is the second longest flyer in terms of prime ride track, 2,876 feet, about 150 feet behind Tatsu, and about 150 feet ahead of Acrobat. It also tops the list in height and speed, no surprise. This is B&M's newest flyer, opening in 2016, and it's almost like they said they made the perfect one and there's nowhere they can go but down. I know, that's not how it works, but still, it's a shame it's gonna be a full 10 years since we've seen a B&M flyer, especially if they can make more like this. So, where does Flying Dinosaur end up on my overall ranks? As much as I rave about it, it's still a flying coaster. Definitely not my favorite type of coaster, but this is my top ranked flyer of any manufacturer, and it barely missed my top 50. I slotted at number 55. For context, I have this right behind Outlaw Run and right ahead of Behemoth. Oh my god.
Whoa.
What was that? That was insane. Flying Dinosaur, best flyer that you've been on.
Absolutely.
Best flyer I've been on too. That thing does not let up. Like Tatsu has some crazy moments, Manta has some crazy moments. That doesn't stop from the first big drop all the way until that final barrel roll. It's still going like 80 miles an hour into that barrel roll at the end.
Everyone just coming back into the station was just panting and
yeah.
It was whoa.
Whoa, we gotta do that again later. That was insane. Okay, I promised a detailed locker rant, and here it is. Everything except your watch has to go in a locker, and that includes glasses. Luckily, they provide lockers for you, and they're free. And there's a whole locker area at the bottom of the stairs going into the station. If you're a single rider, this is where you start. If you're in the standby line, this is your last stop. So, if you're waiting in a long line, you can keep your stuff with you almost the whole time. This locker system is very complicated. It's a huge area, and when you go up to the ride op, they give you a receipt with your QR code. They have different size lockers, and I think the op sees what you have and gives you a locker based on that. Small is just for phones and wallets and glasses. Medium is for like really small bags or purses, and large is for backpacks. You scan your QR code and it assigns you a locker. It pops open and you put your stuff in. And if you forget something, you can reopen it without ending your rental. Here's the catch. You have to hold on to that QR code to reopen your locker when you're done. So keep that code in a safe spot. If you don't have zipper pockets, or buttons, or Velcro, I'm not sure how you do that. I had zipper pockets, so I held onto mine and other people's receipts. But if you don't have that, I don't know what you do with it. You also can't hold on to it. Can't get it too crumpled or wet because it still needs to read the QR code in the end. So this seems to be a plot hole in the plan. If something happens to your QR code, I recommend memorizing your locker number so you can get help later. Through all this madness, I was wondering, what's stopping someone from bypassing the main line, joining the single rider line, and then jumping back into the main line after the lockers? I think this is all controlled after you're done with your locker. You have to go through a metal detector, and the op will take your locker receipt and hole punch it. This is so you can't jump back on the stairs after you ride. I believe the op that gives you the ticket in the front gives you one that's single rider specific, and when the next op scans it, they tell you to go on the single rider stairs. I guess that means if you have nothing on you and you don't need a locker, you get assigned one anyway. It's the only way they control the single rider line and keep people from re-riding. That's all I have for Flying Dinosaur. Let me know what you think, if you've ridden it. Is it high in your personal ranks? What's your favorite part? And if you haven't ridden it, where this is on your bucket list? And if anything here surprised you or confirmed something you already knew. Before you go, don't forget to drop a like, and if you're new here and love coasters, please give me a sub. I want to thank my Patreons. If you want bonus access, bonus content, and have your name listed at the end of each video, check my links below and join. Also, check out my second channel, where I post copyright-free off-ride footage. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.